Okay, so I have never been diagnosed with anything, but I have seen psychologists before when I was younger, when I used to get depressed once in a while. And as I look into it, I might have a thing called ODD, just a minor case of it. Because every time somebody says anything, especially anyone with authority, I immediately question it. So they call ODD oppositional defiance disorder, which is kind of bad because I question everything, but at the same time, it is good. And that is why when I was growing up as a Christian, I questioned all the teachers and pastors. I mean, they didn't like it. They told me to leave a few times, but I need to know. So, there are a lot of Christians that believe in pastors just because a lot of us who doesn't study the Bible just don't know. So we think of experts, they know something. So therefore, we believe what they say, and a lot of times without any questions. Well, I can't do that personally. So when it comes to science, it's the same way. When a scientist like Bill Nye and other people come out and say something, it sounds interesting and everything, but do I believe everything they say? No. So when it comes to climate control or climate change, whether you call it the global warming, I think they're changing it to climate change because it's not warming up anymore. So I guess they're changing it to climate change. But when the global warming thing was very popular, I know our President Obama talked about it. They said it's undisputed, right? Every scientist says that the earth is warming and we're all going to die or something like that. Well, if every scientist says there's global warming, I don't believe it. I don't know why. I just don't. So you kind of want to look into it. And as Jesus said, the truth will set you free, right? And I didn't feel free thinking about the fact that global warming is going to wipe everything out. Especially when the government says, oh, because of global warming, we need more money. I don't believe it. So you got to look into it. And I know recently, I think the new elected Congresswoman Cortez went to some kind of protest and high-five everybody, right? The climate change people. So it seems like the media is into it. Science community is into it. Our government is definitely into it for a reason I do not know yet. But when you look more and more into it, we realize that global warming is not really caused by carbon dioxide. The carbon dioxide is actually released when there is warming. So there is a people of scientists who study, I guess, temperatures and stuff. There are some that believe that it is not carbon dioxide that brings about the heat, but it is the sunspots, right? They call it the sunspots. So if there are years of many sunspots, then definitely it's gonna get warmer. But according to NASA, there's a guy named Tony Phillips who wrote about this. He says the sun is entering one of the deepest solar minima of the space age, meaning that sunspots have been absent for most of 2018. Right? I know our great governor, Brown, recently said that all this, wild fire that's going on in California is blame goes to the climate change deniers. I don't know why he would say something like that. I guess he's blaming humans for all this, wildfires that's going on in this country. But at the same time, you got to realize that about, 100 years ago, there was a lot more wildfires. Well, that's what I found out anyways. But going into it, check this out, okay? Tell me if this makes sense to you, right? So what the NASA at the Langley Research Center, they introduced a thing called Thermosphere Climate Index. So I guess what it does is it looks into the temperature, all right, of the atmosphere, the upper atmosphere. So according to the Thermosphere Climate Index, right, during solar maximum, the TCI is high, meaning it's hot, but during solar minimum, it is low, meaning it is getting cold. So as of right now, what they see is that the upper atmosphere of the earth is getting really cold. So the conclusion basically then is that it could happen in a matter of months. What could happen? That it's going to get very cold. It's going to get cold. And there's, what do you call it? Signs of that. We didn't see New York going underwater. Actually, some research shows that the water in New York is actually getting lower there. The ice is getting thicker in the North Pole. I mean, there's a guy named Tony Heller or something like that. I think he's named Tony Heller on YouTube. He explains about everything. And the more I look into it, I'm not a scientist. I don't know much from much, but I question the authority, especially when politicians and scientists and teachers and media is telling us about global warming. I don't believe it. So you look into it, it seems like we're about to go into another ice age or cooling period like we had during the 50s. And I think the scientists and people know it. That's why they're changing from global warming to climate change. Should we continue to work at, keeping the air clean? Definitely. But should we tax people and bring up the cost of everything and put taxes on gas and stuff? I just think they're just using climate change as a reason to put tax on gas so that the government could take in a lot more of our money. That's my conclusion anyway. But what do I know? I'm not a scientist. But it seems like we're going to go into a global cooling period. We shall find out. All right. But the signs of, the earth right now shows that, yes, we will be going through a cooling period, which is okay. I kind of like the warming period a little better, but who knows? All right. Anyway, truth shall set you free. So Jesus was right. God bless you. I'll see you next time.